Man, your story is amazing.
I remember dropping down to my hands and knees that morning, and I started to cry like a baby. This is after 7 suicide attempts, and in 2 occasions I was dead. They brought me back, and all my teeth knocked out, all that great stuff. And I started to cry on my hands and knees. And I remember looking up to the sky and saying, if there's a God, I can't do this on my own anymore. I always say to people, from where I was to ending up here is humanly impossible. Jenny around the corner is an alcoholic because she drinks too much alcohol. That's the furthest from the truth. What we found is alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism, and the same with addiction. And the alcoholics are born and the drug addicts are made. If I tell you a lie now, you might believe it. If I tell you a lie often enough, you're gonna believe it. But if I tell you a lie real often enough, I'm gonna start to believe it. So if I'm surrounding myself by these friends that are jealous and don't want me to go anywhere, they want me to stay in that cesspit with them, every time I try and get out, they're pulling me back again with little comments. You've got to get rid of them guys.
From raised in some poverty to then having success, being married, having children, then homeless, addict, saved by a ghost. So yes, we are on Dr. Rob Kelly. I'm just going right into this, connected from our good man, Adam Jablin. And man, your story is amazing. Like, I'm just going to try, look, from raised in some poverty to then having success, being married, having children, then homeless for I think 14 months. And when we'll go through all this, addict, saved by a ghost. We'll talk about that more too. Then became a leading expert, really like focused on neuroscience, to where you got such high profile where celebrities, you've been featured on Netflix. And it's, when I say celebrities, like I've had a lot of them on my show and stuff too. And it's not just about that people are famous come to you, but what I mean by saying that is those that are looking for the best of the best, the high performance people, the real celebrities that are seeking out through the word of mouth, means that you got to that level to where you're the sought out person to be doing this. And if we could just go back, like back it up to where when you started having that success and you were married, was it at that time was with one kid or two kids? I forget what started happening when the alcoholism was kicking in.
It kicked in well before that, but yeah, two
Okay.
children, married, everything going, what I thought was great, but obviously not. And in the end, it all went wrong for me. But it's funny because when it went wrong, I'm on the streets, living in bus shelters and begging for money, and the real deal. I didn't think I had a problem with alcohol. Still, it took all that time before I realized. But yeah, it's a crazy story, but it's a crazy life, and one of the reasons I still do this today, you see, I get on podcasts not to promote my stuff. Please don't call me anything like that. I've got enough patience. Don't buy any books or anything. It's just purely inspiring other people that think they can't do it, that can. Neuroscience tells us that time and time again.
That's why I started this show. Um, Gosh, it's been almost 10 years now, which is crazy to believe. Because I have a company for almost 20 years for people with developmental disabilities. And a lot of people know me now from the podcast, from all that. But I got to a point where I was like, I just want to get different people, because I have my own story. This isn't about me, but being in trouble, being in jail at age 17, sharing overcoming adversity to achieve success, which is what you're all about. And like everyone listening and that's going to be watching this all over the world, if they haven't heard your story, Dr. Rob, I was listening to it. I talked to our good man, Adam, but I did some research from you on some other shows. And when I said saved by a ghost, can you just talk about that? This gave me chills. Like, and I don't want to give anything away, but you're just painting the picture. You're homeless. You're in Manchester. I don't know how long it's been. I don't know if this was like the 14-month point, and where you are, like in a bus stop, and you run into some guy named John, I think. Can you just walk like everyone through this story? Because this gives me the chills.
Sure, yeah. So I am homeless. It is 14 months. One evening, I'm walking around the back ends of Manchester, which is just factories and offices. So there's no people in sight. It's early hours, 2 or 3 o'clock. I remember dropping down to my hands and knees that morning, and I started to cry like a baby. This is after 7 suicide attempts, and in 2 occasions I was dead. They brought me back, stealing, battering, all my teeth knocked out, all that great stuff. And I started to cry on my hands and knees. And I remember looking up to the sky and saying, if there's a God, I can't do this on my own anymore.
Mm.
See, I wasn't crying because I lost my children, my wife, my houses, my money, my parents. I was crying because I realized for the first time that I couldn't stop drinking.
Mm.
And 30 seconds later, a guy walked around the corner called Derek. He came up and said, you need help? And I said, yeah, I'm dying. I'm an alcoholic. He was a Christian in recovery, took me back to his house. And he said, you can stay here for as long as you want, but the only thing you do is have to come to AA meetings with me. So I went to this AA meeting the next night, which I didn't want to go to because I've done before, and the crap, I've seen it so many times. But in there, a guy called John shared, and he said, my name's John, I'm a recovered alcoholic. And he talked about some crazy stuff that was true. And after the meeting, I walked over and I said, hey, John, my name's Rob, would you sponsor me? And he said, no. And just before the ground opened up and swallowed me, he said, I'll be your spiritual advisor for 12 weeks. So the gist of every Wednesday, I walked round to his house, took me an hour. I had to wait downstairs till he was dead on 7 o'clock. On 8 o'clock, no matter what we were doing, he used to walk me out the door and he used to walk home and get back to Derek's at 9, every Wednesday for 12 weeks. The last Wednesday I was there, he told me all sorts of crazy things will happen. My life will change from tomorrow. And my reply was, I'm living in Derek's basement on a blow-up mattress. I don't think nobody knows I'm there. However, the next day, Derek came home earlier and he said, hey, the guy sweeping the floor at the factory has just resigned. Do you want a part-time job? So I said, yeah. So it turned into a full-time job. So after I got my first pay packet, I goes to the gas station and I bought John a little tiny teddy bear. That's all I could afford. And I can't. I remember, thank you, John, for introducing me to God because he took the compulsion to drink away. And I went back to his house. But when I got there, it kind of looked a little bit darker because obviously he had the lights on when I went. So I'm knocking on the door with no answer. And the girl from the right hand came, an old lady, and says, can I help you? And I said, yeah, where's John moved to? And she said, John who? I said, John, the neighbour, John. I didn't know his second name. I said, John, who lived there. There's been no one in that apartment for 3 months that I've lived here. So I knew she was crazy. I let her close the door, knocked on the left-hand door, and this big guy came to the door. He said, what do you want? Where's John relocated to, buddy? And he went, John who? And I'm like, these guys are having me on, surely. I said, the guy lived next door to you. And he said, that place is derelict. It has been done. It has been for a year. There's no floor in that apartment, so you can't walk in it. It's very, very dangerous. You've got the wrong address. So then I'm bemused and obviously puzzled. So next night I go back to the meeting where I'd met him about 4 months ago. And when I walked in, the chairman, because I'd never been there before, oh my God, Rob, you've come back. Oh, thank God for that. So you remember me? And he said, oh, you remember you. Does John still come here? John who? I said, John, the guy was over near the coffee machine and was talking about going around to his house every way, there. And he said, Rob, we thought you'd actually found your higher power because you were over near the coffee machine speaking to yourself. Never found that man. Never found that man. And Mark, when I say we never found him, Mark, when I started to do well for myself, I actually hired a private detective service in Manchester, one of the best and most expensive, and they couldn't find him.
Wow. And you held this in for like 20 years, right? Because you didn't want people to think that you were crazy or something. I mean, I don't know what you were. Well, can I ask you this, Dr. Rob, were you sober during that time? Like during that, it's making me think of that movie Fight Club. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where it's a different thing, but he's seeing like his other self, and then at the end you find out it's like a hallucination. And I'm not saying that's what this is, because I believe in and I'm not shy to say it. I have people from all types of religions on my show, but I believe in God, and that's what saved me through my stuff too. And I have no doubt that God is orchestrating, and like that must have been an angel. But were you sober during that point in time, like during those 12 weeks when you were continually seeing? Wow.
100% sober, yeah. And the thing that I wouldn't tell you is, first of all, I'm trying to bring this new program into the medical fraternity, which I got so laughed out and bashed out. I wouldn't tell this story as well. It's like, look, we have this we have a 97% success rate. It's unheard of. We're the only company in the world that offer you a money back guarantee if you relapse. It's unheard of. But the reason why it works is because 95% of this is what John taught me. 5% is maybe schooling, but it was all experience and what John taught me. And after several years, 20 years, I don't know how long it goes, I just told it one day on it might have been Oprah or other doctors, I can't remember. And it just went crazy. And so many people messaging with me saying, oh my God, I've had the same experience.
Really?
And I'm good, so I can actually say it. But yeah, I mean, come on, how does that happen? And I end up here. And I always say to people, from where I was to ending up here is humanly impossible. I had to have God's help. That's the bottom line for me.
That's like, Rob, like that's when people ask me too, when they're like, I can break down my success principles, but when it really comes down to the core, from like waking up almost dead in jail and stuff, and then having just all this, at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not preaching down your throat, but from my own experience, like without God, I wouldn't be, like, I have no other explanation. It's just too much. But
yeah,
but I don't know. But your story though, I mean, so do you believe that was an angel?
Yeah, I do. And again, I was in denial for a long time, but you know, I couldn't deny to myself so many things falling into place and so many things happening. And even now, you know, I mean, I was diagnosed with esophagus cancer. It's crazy. And I know, okay, I'm going to say it. So they took me down, got me to call my parents. The doctor spoke to the parents. It's a huge operation. There's not a lot of great success from it. Went down to finally have it x-rayed one more time. The cancer had gone. I mean, there's so many things like that's happened to me that shouldn't happen. I was in a hospital and they overdosed me on pain meds, and nurse walked past getting coffee, not a normal time, found me. But I mean, so many things have happened to me recently. That was only about a year ago.
Wow.
There's no such thing as coincidences in my world. There just isn't. So when we got into the neuroscience, or I got into neuroscience, I found out that once you have that connection, spiritual connection hits a spiritual mind. The mind is different from the brain. Mind, energy, brain, matter. Mind over matter. So what we found is the connection between mind, energy, and something else's energy. When the neural pathways are changed, the work we do, redirecting neural pathways and rewiring the brain, your DNA changes. And you're not the same person.
It's so it's so fascinating you say that, because when I went back to school after jail, I didn't read my first book till I was 18. I thought I was too stupid, and then once I read, I realized, like, whoa, I actually, if I'm enjoying what I'm reading, I can. But I ended up going to school for psychology, not nearly as much as you did, but where I went, it focused a lot more on brain physiology back in the day. And one thing that I kept learning was, man, with how much they think they know, they're not tapping into any of this. And I see it in my field all the time for our clients with developmental disabilities, where they're just so over medicated, and they're not ever looking at pretty much everything that you just talked about. And when you met with that John guy, was he talking about, like, using other terms, but like the neuro science and stuff in a way to you, or about the brain and the mind and the separation between that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And that's what shocked me, because we're going back to 1988-ish. Memory's no good back in the day, but 98, you know, was it 1988? Yeah, 1988, I think. He was talking about stuff that nobody knew what he was talking about, you know? So, and one of the reasons today why we haven't taken on this as a medical fraternity is there's no money in recovery, Mark. Unless you can stick you in the treatment center, give you therapy, or give you a pill, nobody wants to know this deal. So that's why I dived in. I wasn't happy enough to say, hey, you're an alcoholic and you can't drink. I wasn't happy with that. It's like, why? Oh, Jenny around the corner is an alcoholic because she drinks too much alcohol. That's the furthest from the truth. What we found is alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism, and the same with addiction. And the alcoholics are born and the drug addicts are made. Only 15% now, though, is that. But the rest is just changing people's minds, the perspective on where they want to be in life.
Yeah, I heard you talk a lot. I remember my good man Adam, too, talked about alcoholism as a spiritual disease. And it didn't hit me till later on. Like you say, there's no coincidences, because after the show, I opened up to him about something that I don't openly mention, but we were dealing with within my own family. And I had just open up to him, and like almost in tears. And when he said alcohol is a spiritual disease, I didn't quite understand what he meant. But going back to almost like the separation between the brain and the mind and the spirituality, what was really interesting to me is, like, I don't believe the devil's this guy that's all red and a tail and a pitchfork. I think a lot of times it comes in, those thoughts in your head, like, you can't do this, you're not good enough for that. And then the spiritual disease, he comes in, all this addiction can come in other areas in our families, and the enemy can try to use that to break your marriage up without you even realizing. You or your wife might not be the addict. You may be dealing with it with someone else in your family, and it can ruin in a tricky way, a healthy household. And that's when I started realizing, and I should have known it from my own journey, but now I'm facing it from like another. I don't want to get too much into detail because a lot of it's very personal and confidential still. But when he said that, it just like finally it clicked, and I'm like, oh man, that's like the other level of the spirituality. But you combine that with a neuroscience, and I'm just like really interested to hear sort of some things that you have come about, like with the trauma and stuff. And I have a question for you, Dr. Rob, like specifically with trauma. How do you gauge the difference between, there's all different types of trauma, of course, versus when someone has like an entitled victim mindset to where they're like, well, my mom grounded me one time when I was 6, and because of that, I'll never get up on time and go to any job. And if my boss tells me I need to get better at something I'm not doing better at, it's his fault. I'm quitting. If I don't get good grades, it's the teacher's fault. You know what I mean? Like, what's a way that you help distinct between those two?
Well, first of all, everybody has trauma, okay? It don't have to be a plane crash or anything like that. It's very, very minor. With alcoholics, addicts, childhood trauma is the gateway drug. So what we see is alcoholics and addicts hear things different than other people. Mom says to me and my brother, hey, listen, get down off that table before your dad gets home. My brother jumps down, I freeze. What I've heard is, get down off that table. Okay, so when we talk about childhood trauma, we're more sensitive. And there's 3 parts of the brain that differ in alcoholics to any other addiction. So we hear things differently. So when somebody comes along with an excuse, because it is an excuse, that I did this once and I can't do this anymore, that's just a learned behavior. You'll see that his parents are in that mindset themselves. So when we look at learned behavior and enmeshment, absolutely runs or ruins our life. So something you do today as an adult, whether it be self-sabotage for a job, a girl, a car, a house, you have a childhood trauma attached to it. But you're never going to put it together. This is what we've gone into, is let's pick this. Everyone's doing trauma. Let's pick it apart, though. How does that affect the person? So you look at the environment, you look at, alcoholics are born as a predisposition. I'm allergic to the ethanol in alcohol, and it's generational. It's not the same with drugs. So you trace all that back. Now you can look at the childhood trauma pertaining to that. Normal childhood trauma is bad, but when you add addiction to that mix, it's 10 times as worse and 10 times it affects us. But childhood trauma is the gateway drug. I don't care what anybody says. What we do today is learn behavior. So how do we define that real quick? We put 1,000 fleas into a huge mason jar. We put holes in the top, and after 3 days, we took the cap off. Every single flea in there obviously can jump 3 or 4 feet, but not one flea jumped higher than where the cap was, which was interesting. What was more interested in the babies they had in that jar, they wouldn't jump higher than where the lid was, and they'd never even seen the lid. So when we look at somebody coming forward like that, it's learned behavior, what our caregivers have taught us. As babies are born with 2 fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. The rest is man-made. Wait till your father gets home. If you don't pass that test, all that fear is man-made. It does not exist when we get to over the age of 4 or 5. It's all man-made. That's trauma. That's childhood trauma that ruins our life today. Most people walk around 45 to 50% of their capability and capacity. No one's going to live to 100% unless you go back and you clear, uncover, discover, discard all that trauma before you can live to your full potential.
And man, that analogy, not even that analogy, that actual test with them, with addiction, learned helplessness, that applies to all levels of success in our life and our own limitations. I mean, that's the perfect illustration of that lid that's like on our mindset, thinking you can't do this. That's there because, and I heard you talk about this too, and we've heard it a lot too, like show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And it's like, if everyone's jumping around you and hitting that lid, you're going to be thinking, well, it's impossible to go past that lid because everyone in my environment is jumping into that lid. And I was curious to hear your thoughts on this too, because we talk about the importance of the people in your life, but also what about the importance of guarding your mindset of what you allow in, such as all the negativity from the news and other sources too? Because you can be surrounded by good people, but if you're constantly, these are just my thoughts, you let me know what you think. If you're constantly absorbing all this, the world's ending here, the economy's going down, and then I know me, the more I do that, I get more and more anxious, and that starts to affect, I have to block that out because I realize if I don't guard my mindset, what I intentionally allow in it, then that is another like friend that I'm allowing in.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, I mean, from babies, what we see is how we feel, what we hear, we believe to be the truth. Watch a happy movie, we're happy. Watch a sad movie, we're sad. So you can change the people around you. You can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. It's really important that your inner circle is what you listen to. And here's a great example. I'm in Dallas for 14 years. I've been in San Antonio for 4 years. During the 14 years, I kept telling my friends I'm thinking of writing a book. And they all said, no, don't be stupid. You can't do that. You're not an author. I moved to San Antonio 4 years ago. I said this to the new set of friends, and they said, oh my God, it's an amazing idea. So I wrote a book. So you've got to be careful if you want to stop 90% of your crazy thought patterns or the defeat, the depression, turn the TV off, first of all. And then secondly, you hang around 9 depressed people, you're going to become the 10. Seek out them friends that you want to be. So if I'm on 40,000 a year and I want to earn 60, I'm going to hang around the guys that earn 60. You will become a 60,000 a year guy. So it's really protecting yourself about any jealousy and anything that anybody says, something that's putting you down, even joking. Oh, Rob, I see you get I'm already joking. No, they're not. Because my mind doesn't know the difference between joking and being real. And 9 out of 10 times when we look at psychology, what people say in a joke, they really mean, and they tie it up. So you have two kinds of the brain. You've got the subconscious and you've got the conscious brain. The 24 hours a day, which is not an AA thing, if we can live in this 24 hours a day from our here, then we're being our best being. But most of the time when the prefrontal cortex asks for an answer, it comes back to the subconscious. That's full of all the bad stuff you've been through. So 9 out of 10 times, we're going to go here and, only if I can go for this job. And the answer is no, but nobody's stupid. So it's even protecting the internal dialogue. Oh, I dropped a pen on the floor. Oh, God, you stupid idiot. Stop that stuff, guys. Stop it now. Because what you tell yourself, you'll become. And what other people say to you, that's kind of the same. You'll believe as the truth. Remember, what we see is how we feel. What we hear, we believe to be the truth because people are telling us this. The only reason we find out it's not is time. When you read, oh, that guy told me it's not true. But we try and trust everybody. So just guard your own mental health. Always hang around the guys that want to lift you and not drop you. I want something for you, not from you.
Yeah, not the energy vampires. And what you said is something that's so key too with who you have around you. It's important that they're not only like challenging you to grow, but they're doing stuff themselves. Like that's what I do, to where I don't look at them in a way. I have a good friend of mine that has built his company into a TV production, and he's getting close to taking it public. And I don't look at that as like, oh man, I'm so I look at that as like, that's freaking awesome. And that motivates me to know that there's like other levels of this stuff versus the other people that, will try to like, or latch on to that is another thing. They may be fakely giving them praise, but they're just trying to see what can I get out of them. And when you really have those on right people that are like doing it and you're seeing it, and then when you win, they're really cheering you on, is another thing that I've realized is so important, that like the real friends versus the fake friends. And it's crazy when you get around that more and more, the next level becomes the new normal. Cause there was a point in time where I had my first book come out too. And I went through that. And next thing I knew, I was in this mastermind and everyone there was a best-selling author. So it just became like, when my book came out, I was super excited, my first one, but it almost felt like, well, that's just the next thing on the checklist because 99% of the people around me have it. And then I stepped back and realized like, whoa, I didn't read my first book till I was 18. And the people around me at that time were like calling me a sellout when I said I wanted to go to college, and sadly they're both dead now. And I'm sure you have a lot of stories like that too, but
always look for the guys that are not cheering when you get a win. And there's always one person in the family or immediate friends that wants you to fail. The quicker you learn that, the quicker you'll start looking for these guys. Remember 2 words, guys. Says who? Says who? Well, you can't be president of the United States, I used to get told of my patients years ago. Well, forget your political views for a second. We had a business of running the country for 4 years with no political experience whatsoever. How dare you tell me you can't achieve your dreams? It's just not true. That's learned behavior and enmeshment. You're never going to. Women get it all the time when guys, no one else will have you. You have 2 kids. No, what a bunch of nonsense is what. But we believe that.
Right.
That's the problem. If I tell you a lie now, you might believe it. If I tell you a lie often enough, you're going to believe it. But if I tell you a lie real often enough, I'm going to start to believe it. So if I'm surrounding myself by these friends that are jealous and don't want me to go anywhere, they want me to stay in that cesspit with them. Every time I try and get out, they're pulling me back again with little comments. You've got to get rid of them, guys. You've got to get rid of them, guys, and move up. Doesn't mean you can't turn around later and help them get to the place you are. But if you stay in that environment, you will not get out and you will not change. If we do today what we did yesterday, we become stagnant. We've got to be moving forward every single day, and we've got to be careful who we speak to, lift people up, be careful what we listen to, and have guys around you that's got your back all of the time. That's how me and over 8,000 patients I've worked with get there. It's a no-nonsense deal. But because it's childhood trauma, we listen to these guys. Listen, guys, if I've got any haters out there, and I don't think I have, when you start paying my mortgage, I'll start listening to you. But until the end, you're de minimis in my life. Go away.
Right. And I have also learned too not to take advice in a certain area where someone isn't bearing more fruits than me in that area. So it's like if you're going to give me advice about parenting and you have no kids, your advice isn't very helpful to me because it's way different when you have, or I have a great spiritual advisor in my church, but I'm not going to get business advice from him because he doesn't have a company. You know what I mean? Like, I almost have like different people on my board and my council that I know to go to for different areas of life and advice. But what I was going to ask you, Dr. Rob, is when it is a family member that is that person that they're not necessarily toxic or abusive, but you can feel that energy, and it's exhausting every time you're around them. What's some advice that you give to people to where they can't just totally cut them off? They're going to be seeing them, but to have some type of like arm's length relationship with them or something. What are
Yeah.
some things you tell to people in those
Well,
situations?
you can't choose your family, obviously, but either love them to death or keep them at arm's length. That's the only two reasons. You start dialogue with them, love them to death, and make sure the family and on your side. But 9 out of 10 times, we pinpoint in therapy with those, you pinpoint who it is. Once we become aware, we can be careful what we take in from them. You've always got to look at the source, guys. Where did that comment come from? Anybody who's doing as good as you or better than you will never, ever comment or try and put you down. It's always the guys that are sat
Amen.
at the computer at home in the mom's parents' bedroom and they're 35 years old. It's like, come on, we just don't do that. So, it's okay. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me is not true.
Oh
Because
man, it's not.
these things hurt me when I used to look at reviews and go, oh my God, I start to believe that because I have a mind that wants to kill me and make it look like an accident. So I have to be real careful what's coming
Right.
into so I can really process what's coming in. And guys, if you want to succeed in life, whatever that looks like, you have to look at them guys who don't want you to succeed, family or not. Now, once we succeed, we can help them or whatever it is, financially or lovingly, whatever. But you have to be clinical about this, guys. You have to stop people pleasing. Well, my brother, hey, listen, you're over there. That's awesome. Stay in your place. This is my lane. If you're going to join me, great. If you're not, you stay on that side road over there. Because I'm taking this freeway and there's nothing going to stop me. And anybody that comes in my way that says different, I cut them off. Completely cut them off. Because guys, we could sit there now here for the next 7 days, 24 hours a day, Mark, me explaining to people how their mind works and how powerful you really are, guys. Sat at home, and you probably still wouldn't believe me. But the
Sadly,
system,
yeah.
there's a system because while you're listening to these guys, while you're listening to your naysayers, what happens is there's thousands, 100,000, if not millions of people dying or going broke waiting for you to get your crap together. And that is not listening to these guys. We all have a niche in this world. I know what my niche is today, but it took me a long time to get here. Know your worth, guys. People ask me all the time, hey, Dr. Rob, I'm starting to practice, or I'm starting to coach. How much do you think I should charge an hour? What are you worth? Ask yourself that question. How much an hour are you, Rob? Oh, me, I'm $1,500 an hour. Oh, that's my worth. That is my worth, guys. And it might be $10. I'm just putting it out there. That's
Right.
today. And I don't let anybody else bring my worth down. Oh, listen, Dr. Rob, can you do that a bit cheaper? No. Why? Because you pay him. If I come to your work and ask you to work 40 hours, but I'm going to pay you 20, would you? No, that's my worth. And once I start dropping down from a number or whatever it is from my worth, then I start to think I belong there.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm doing things free, did it for years, and I'm charging people underpriced. And what happens to my psyche and my mind is it drops in value, and my whole being drops in value. For what? Because somebody wants me to not be myself. Not going to happen. Not going to happen, Mark.
Then you're not able. I always tell one, if you're bankrupt, you can't help anyone. So it's like as you grow and have different levels of success, it amplifies more of who you are. So of course I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labor because I'm like you. I came from nothing. My office started in a barn in 2007. The recession hit. Everyone
Wow.
told me give up. It's impossible, you know. And as you continue to make it, enjoy the fruits of your labor. And it's so well to say that, to really understand your worth, because it's so easy. I heard this great story. It's been told that Picasso was in a restaurant one time doodling on a napkin, and the waitress came over, and when he was finished, she looked at it and was like, "Wow, that's amazing. Like, can you sign that? And what could I get that?" And he's like, "Yeah, that would be $25,000." And that was way back then. So now that would probably be like 1 million or something. And she's like, "Well, I just watched you. You just sat there and did that in 10 minutes." And he's like, "No, my dear. This took me 30 years to do." Because what they're not seeing and what you're bringing is 30 years of experience has brought you to that 1 hour that you're charging is 30 years, you know?
And people don't understand that exactly. Now, I want to put a preemption on that. Is my worth is that. That's how much it is. It costs a lot of money to work with me. But you know something? There's two things I do because I can do that. There's two things I do. One, we carry 25% of our work is pro bono. Every therapist and doctor in my practice needs to carry a pro bono, otherwise you're not going to work for us. Secondly, and people always say, well, you shouldn't say how much you give away to charity. Yeah, them guys are giving nothing away, by the way. We give $150,000 back into the community, me and my wife, out of our money, because we earned
That's awesome.
this. We've got to give this away. That's why we started the Rob Kelly Foundation. It's like, if you're not giving back, and you're set on that ego stuff in the big house with the big car looking down on people, that ain't going to last. What comes overnight goes overnight. And I
Right.
love what you said. Getting money doesn't change you. If you're an idiot when you're poor, you're going to be an idiot when you're rich.
Right.
If you're a good guy when you're poor, you're going to be a good guy when you're rich. I don't think money spoils us. Like we said, the only person that ever said that to me is emphasizes who we are.
Yes.
And so guys, the bad guys get rich sometimes. But listen, I've been in the $50 million houses. That's all I work with now. High profile people, because I only take on 3 patients every 3 months. Then we've got all these guys over there, working class like me, that we work with. And I've seen the most dysfunctional, saddest, broken homes and houses behind them $50 million gates. So we see people like they said there's no God, or they don't like people or whatever. They live in this mansion. You need to get in that mansion, and you'll find out 10 out of 10 times that their life has gone to crap.
Yeah. Yeah. If your purpose isn't attached to it, then and we think that that's what's going to make us happy.
Oh,
And people don't know, and it's people are so quick, like you said, living in their basement, to judge on the comments. And I'm like, you have no idea what that person is going through behind the scenes. You
yeah,
think you want your life, their life. I've people said that about me. I'm like, you think you do, but you don't see the thousands of hours that
yeah,
go on behind the scenes just to be able to see like the 1 hour that I'm doing this speaking event or something.
yeah,
Or we flew on a private jet. It's not like people get it twisted. But something you said earlier I love is, when it comes to haters, you, I've heard it put this way too. I've never met a hater that was above me. Like,
no,
it's anyone that's doing something with their life and going after their purpose. Number one, they don't have time to be a hater. And
no,
number two, if they're going to waste their energy giving it into you, it's going to be because they care, and they're going to try to help give you advice
yeah,
because they want to help see you grow, right?
exactly. It's exactly that. Any comments, any negative comments come from people that are struggling. There's two kinds of people in this work, Mark. I can tell you at 62 years age, there's two kinds of people. The people that love you, and the people that want to be you. That's all there is. You know, You know as well as I do, Mo, that what me and you do, even the podcast and everything that we do, can become very lonely. People don't see that. We can
Yeah.
be doubting ourselves. People don't see that.
Yep.
Sometimes I end up going home and not getting up next day because I'm so depressed and because, what's happened the day before. Nobody sees that. What he sees coming on, like me, and being arrogant and being loud, what they don't see is when someone's suffering or someone needs help and they come to my house or they call me up, we'll bring her in and we'll nurture them guys and we'll make sure they're okay. When we got a call at 2 o'clock in the morning because someone's been thrown out of a treatment center and has got nowhere to go, we're going to pick them up. There's no charge to this. This is my duty that I have to do for being where I am today. I'm so blessed to be where I know that. I know that my lifestyle is phenomenal, but I ain't gonna hide behind that, and I ain't gonna dismay that either. You can train your mind to start your brain in the morning and be as successful as you want to be successful. It's as simple as that. But when you get there, you have to start reaching down and pulling them guys, just like you in the gutter, back up to you. But you've got to be strong enough that they don't pull you down. So you have to have strong boundaries, and people don't see this with us, Mark. They just see us on this podcast and we're talking private jets and we're talking millions of dollars that I earn. No, there's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of bashing and bruising and broken bones that we've had to suffer to get to here. One of the reasons, and I said it before, and I do these podcasts, is not to sell my company or try and get you as a client or anything. No, I don't want that. It's like if one person goes, something, that Dr. Rob did this and this. Wow, do you think there's a chance for me? I'll give you $1 million if there's not a chance for you. Unless you have brain damage or real deep trauma, you can't come. You can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. And remember, if somebody says anything to you, you can't do that. 2 words. Says who? I don't like who's making these rules up. Says who? Because everything's possible.
Something you said, Dr. Rob, earlier was I love your authenticity, by the way. And we appreciate it because it's like, it is so easy to see. I'm connected with some of the, I know we can't name, I'm not going to name any names, but I know some very high, if I was to name off a list of even 5 people that I might be connected with who worked with you, people would be like, oh my God, he worked with blah, blah, blah. And paparazzi would be showing up and stuff.
Yeah.
And it shows the level of respect and results that you have. But what I love that you mentioned is you're like, Mark, when I go through doubt and stuff, like I'm the guy that wanted to kill himself. And you're smart enough to know those thoughts, like people think like, Mark, you don't have anxiety anymore. They'll see me speak on a stage. And I've been in a bit, I dropped speech class 3 times in college. I went and they'll ask me after when we're talking and I'm honest with them. I'm like, no, you don't get it. I've done so many of these and yeah, the more you do it, it's like a muscle. You can get better, but still the night before the thoughts come in, Mark, who are you to think that I'm like, this still happens yesterday. I'm like, I've done over 300 podcasts. I've been guests on thousands. It will still happen to me before a show. Who are you to think you can do this? And I've just learned and gotten better to not let it stop me from taking action. But sometimes it's really weird. Like it'll come in waves and out of nowhere. And that's something that I was going to ask you, like when you are working at times with a super high profile person, which I know you're very used to also, but like, how do you deal with those moments where you're thinking like, oh man, I was like just watching them on TV winning an Oscar last night or something. And now I have to go tell them how to not let this fear and doubt stop them. But I'm actually having fear and doubt right now. You know what I mean? And not feeling like you're having that almost like imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, imposter syndrome is big with everybody. What you've got to remember is, everyone goes through this. If I'm speaking tonight, as in tonight, I'm going to be vomiting all day. After 40 years of doing this, and people go, "Oh my God, you are amazing! You do it so naturally." And my wife would go, "He's been sick about 4 times since he got here, literally vomiting with nerves." So it's always going to be there with me. I remember stood next to in America, the biggest singers ever, the biggest out there, multi-million-dollar platinum guys that have been sick on the side of the stage before they go on. But when I took my first celebrity, and I don't mind telling you because he's passed away, is Eddie Van Halen, which I met at the airport and didn't recognize. I've only been here for about 3 months. I didn't know who it was. You get used to it. You get used to your worth again. Why is this guy living in a $100 million house that everybody knows who he is calling me for help? I must have something. And then what I don't do is we never take photographs. We never get signatures. We never even mention anything to do what they do for a living. Because right now, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. And by the way, I'm not scared of walking right now. I turned Brittney Spears down in Dallas, Texas, Campese's restaurant for $1 million. I will walk away because it goes back to my own family that suffered. My mom died early of cancer because she was worried about me when I was homeless. I cannot tell a loved one or parents or anything like that I'm going to get your son, daughter, wife well, and she's going to live a great life if I can't. I'm not like the treatment centers. You can't buy me. You can't buy our services. You have to earn them. So when you put yourself in that position, you find out that these guys are all about business with you. They want to get well. They trust you, and the vice versa. So I don't get it anymore. However, I've got to tell you, funny, Mark, was over in Vegas. I have to go every 3 weeks to see one of my patients there, and I brought my wife with me. And I says, "Come on, I'll take you in." And she was absolutely out of her mind as was knocking on the door. And I thought, wow, other people actually do this. It's crazy. But I'm here to do a mission. Like I say, I don't care who you are, what you do. I don't care how rich or poor you are. I'm on a mission to fight to the death with your addiction. To get you to a place where your life changes immensely. And that's what it is for me. It's just comes down to worth. And you will always have nerves, guys. You will always, because of our childhood trauma, you're always in the back of their mind going, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm speaking to this guy," or "I can't believe I'm going to go and educate." They asked me to teach some of the best medical doctors from all over Harvard and everything, teach them about addiction. Imagine me, a PhD, going on for these MDs and surgeons. What? Are you insane? At the end of the day, they wanted something I have knowledge of. And that's where you need to put yourself.
Would you also say, too, that that's where God's able to help come into the equation? Because, that's where I'm like, man, I'm going to a stadium to speak. The guy that dropped speech class, anxiety, the guy that when God told me to start doing this stuff, I'm like, you got the wrong guy, God. I didn't want the spotlight. And God's like, it's not about you. It's about who I help through you. Because my first speaking event, I almost left. It was at a college. My book was coming out. I was backstage too, about to throw up, face green. And I'm like, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get an Uber back to the plane. People won't know who Mark Minard is. They can keep the retainer, whatever. And this thing, and God was like, it's not about you. You don't get to give up. It's about Mark, this is about who I help through you. And one thing that helped me was I went out on the stage, and the first thing I did is I just joked about it, the truth. And I'm like, so there may be some throw up and stuff on the side of my mouth right now because I literally was about to puke backstage. And I told them the real, and I'm like, I almost didn't come out here, but to any of you watching me right now, if you're facing anxiety, to know I talk about it all the time, but I still go through it. But this is an example of not letting it stop me. Then they laughed, and then we all connected more. And there's something empowering about almost doing the opposite of what our brain's telling us to do. Because it's almost like if I'm the authority, I shouldn't ever show any fear or weakness.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I'll tell you a couple of things. Like I said, when I go on stage or TV, and TV I'm not so bad, but live audiences, I love what you said, Mark. We're so similar. My biggest saying for the last 40 odd years has been, it's not about me. So I get myself to the side of the stage. It's not about me. How dare I for a second think it's about me? I've been pulled from. I mean, I didn't actually go to hell when I was on the streets, but I could sure see it from where I was.
Right.
That's how close I came. But once I get on that stage, God takes over and everything's gone. You see, fear isn't real. Fear is something to do with not knowing, the unknown, the future, what it's going to be like. It's all past trauma. It's not real. When you walk on the podium or with the stage, it goes.
Yeah.
If you ever close connection, I don't care if it's Uncle Jimmy, Spirit of the Universe, or God, or Jesus, you have to get that connection. But he has never let me down. And that once was my biggest fear, Mark, is to walk on stage, trusting him, because I never make notes. And when I get on stage, him being busy somewhere else. I was doing this conference, there was 100,000 people there, and there were 6 speakers going on. And I was the second.
100,000?
Yeah, in a Canadian conference. And they're all writing notes. And this guy said, "Where's your notes?" I said, "What notes?" You don't have any notes? What are you going to speak about? I said, "I have no idea." It's God's honest truth, Mark. I have no idea. And they were freaked out. And the first guy went on and bumbled through his speech. And I walked on, and I stood at the page, and I killed it. And the only reason why I know I killed it is I didn't know what I said. I cannot remember what I said. I never do. I can't come over to somebody and go, "Hey, tell me more about blah, blah." I have no idea what you're talking about. I swear on my children's life, that's the deal. Because if I make notice of my own being, it's my opinion. And you know something, guys? My opinion will kill you. What does my opinion get me? No, really? There has to be something higher that goes through me. And that is exactly what. Guys, I hate to bust any bubbles out there, not as if there is, but I'd like to tell you I'm this clever, but I'm not. I'm really not this clever. Most of it's directed with trust, with faith, direction, love around me, people who believe in me, and knowing quite well, most of all, Mark, and again, I love it, it's not about me.
Yes. And I love what you said about not having notes. I've tried with notes, and I do worse with a full out that I get to, then I'm like, oh, because I worked with a charisma coach and all, and they were great and they were like, and then it's like speak from the heart. And sometimes I'll have a little bit of outline just to keep, it's like an hour just to keep me somewhat on track to make sure I don't go 4 hours over. But the more if I try to do the cue cards or whatever, I actually mess up worse because it doesn't give me time to start to connect and engage with the audience and stuff too. And it's funny what you said, because it's not like we don't put the work in. You're bringing all your whole life experience to what you're speaking on. But then when it comes from the heart, it's like if my note said to only speak 1 minute on this, well, it could end up into a 30 minutes on that. And that's what the people needed at the time. And I'm just like you, even with these shows, I'll rewatch it and listen to it and be like, what the hell? Like I actually sounded really smart saying that, and I'm not that smart. And I have no idea where that came from other than God,
That's exactly it. It's like when they do with send podcasts, really big podcasts. We've said to Courtney, we've sent Dr. Rob the questions we're asking. Yeah, he doesn't take questions. What? Well, he must want to know what I'm going to ask him. No, he doesn't. What if he doesn't know a question? Yeah, God's always answering, so you got no chance of that. It's like, I don't do that stuff. I don't do scripted stuff. I don't do scripted TV. I don't do radio, podcast, speaking. I don't do it because I might just give you my opinion. Right. Like I said, my opinion will kill you. It's always got to be from him who has all knowledge. And I make no bones about that. Mark. Every single time people know. I'm only as good as I am, first of all, because people tell me I'm as good and I believe them today. And secondly, this is not of my doing. I mean, it really isn't, guys. It's just being chosen. When you've been chosen. And everybody listening to this podcast, you're not listening to it by mistake or by coincidence.
That's right.
Everybody in this podcast is a leader. And everyone listening to the podcast has been. I don't care if you're at home, you're sat in your 1-bedroom apartment, the wife's left, the kids are gone. This is training. Yeah. See, I thought my homelessness was the worst thing that ever happened. I hated God and everybody around me. Mm-hmm. years on, I realized that that was like a semester at Harvard University. My
Right.
homeless days, because what I learned from then now becomes my greatest asset going forward. I would never have come on them streets if God didn't have me. I would
Yeah.
never. 4 years ago, my eldest daughter got in contact with me after 30 years. Because when they were 1 and 3, they were taken off me. 4 years ago, she got in contact with me. I flew over to England and she wanted to go back to college. She handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter when I got there. I mean, it was amazing. Now she's the main girl in my Manchester office, UK. Now I have a younger
Wow.
daughter. I have a younger daughter all these years on. I just know one day. Well, that one day was yesterday when she sent me an email. Abigail and Charlie are both back in my life. These are the gifts you get when you follow direction. These are the gifts you see. When I went to my eldest daughter and we knocked on the door, I cried and she walked in and she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter. You've got it, you know you're doing something right. See, the money's not the payback. I don't get involved in that stuff. What's the payback is these miracles that happen every day to me. The smile of somebody. There's a great thing that I read some years ago, and it's so true. That's why I compliment 3 people every day. Is a guy who was going to go to the Golden Gate Bridge and throw himself off because he was so depressed and he hated life. So he went there, he got on the bridge, he jumped and he died. When they got him out and found out who it was, they went back to his apartment and they searched the apartment, obviously, to find out more about him. And there was a letter on the table, the dining room table, and it read, I'm going to go to the Golden Gate Bridge and throw myself off and kill myself unless on the way somebody talks to me. How many people have you passed today, guys, who's walking to the Golden Gate Bridge? How many people have you not smiled at or winked at, or and how many people have you walked by today that's walking to that Golden Gate Bridge, guys? It's not about us. And if you don't think that you can't change the world, do me a favor. Next time you're out in a built-up area of people, sneakers are always the best. Look at somebody walking towards you with nice sneakers and say to them, hey, man, nice sneakers. 4 words. He'll go, oh, thank you, man. When he walks past you, turn around, watch him. He's going to look down to his sneakers at least 3 times. Now you've made his day. He goes on to the wife or girlfriend because he's in a good mood, she's in a good mood. Then mother-in-law calls and you get the best. You've just changed the world. Because people think, oh, I've got to invent the atom to change it. You've just changed the world. Just remember every day, how many people are you passing that's going to the Golden Gate Bridge?
The ripple effect of that too. And also what people don't realize is by helping people, it's therapeutic to us too. And they don't understand the reciprocity that comes from when you're giving, when you're treating, especially you, like in addiction people. I'm sure you've heard of this, Dr. Rob. Instead of post-traumatic stress syndrome, post-traumatic growth syndrome. Yeah. Where I'm guarantee you probably wrote the thing on it for all I know, but where I had a guy on my show that was the first blind man to summit Mount Everest, and Eric Weinhauer, I believe, amazing dude. But anyway, he takes soldiers that are suffering from PTSD and helps them to climb mountains like Mount Everest and stuff, and it's really amazing because as they're working through their things, instead of post-traumatic stress syndrome, they start to see those synapses and stuff like reconnect and regrow and rebuild the more they like challenge themselves to grow out of their comfort zone. And it flips their whole mindset to think it's post-traumatic stress syndrome, so I'm stuck at this my whole life. And he's like, no, we actually have proof that you can grow and those can reconnect and redevelop into a whole new level of you. And a lot of people weren't, at least when I had him on, I hadn't heard about that much at the time.
Yeah, it's we damage the mind. We see trauma, we see PTSD when we go to war and we come back. All this stuff, like you say, what people don't understand is the growth through that. So if we have more growth from the incident itself, then we grow as ourselves, and the PTSD and the trauma gets less and less and less. The more neural pathways you have for good, not bad, like we used to do with the trauma, the better life we see. So yeah, can you get over that? I know we can get over that. But it's all about changing the neural pathways. getting the, like you said, the synapse to start firing more like little generators, and getting the mindset in a direction that they're achieving again. Because I don't want to get into this too much, but when our vets come home from war, and what do we do to them? Nothing, nothing. We don't do anything for them. We don't help them. We do nothing. People are trying to beg nothing. So when they go through life unemployed, no housing, wife's left them, they keep going down that drain. It becomes a working part of the mind. The basal ganglia picks that up, and we're always going to self-sabotage and feel real bad about what we've done and what we've seen. The only way to get all of that is the growth around that. I don't believe there's a pill you can take, maybe a taper for the first 3 months, that's going to get you there. It has to be an experience, a life-changing experience that betters the life-changing experience that you had for the trauma. And this is what we do. We build you into that person that sees the growth on a daily basis, and then see how much they've changed and how much they can help others. And the PTSD, it's the subconscious brain again. So we walk out the door like this with this subconscious crap thing running our lives. Right. This guy here, 24 hours a day, which is not an AA thing. What we do is this. Now this guy's running the show. The 24-hour a day, the conscious mind, the being at self, and using our past experience as our greatest asset to help others and go forward.
So there's a part of the growth that getting the help, but then the real next level of growth comes from, and I keep hearing this, is then using that to help others.
That's really important to do that, So how change happens is the basal ganglia. A pilot needs 10,000 hours in the air before he can fly a commercial jet. It's the same thing with us. Something that's learned over and over and over again. Like driving, when we first drive, it's so big and we're so scared. And after 2 months, we pass our test, we can reverse down the driveway, wave at mom, talk to the girlfriend, and listen to music at the same time. That's the basal ganglia. It's like when we have growth and we move forward, we need to share that for that basal ganglia to go round and round and round. Otherwise, if we don't, and it's a really important thing you have to take away from today, guys, if you don't help others with that basal ganglia, that repetition, if you don't help others, what happens is we become complacent, and what happens is the basal ganglia goes into default, which is self-sabotage, and you're back to the PTSD.
Do you have do you have enough time, Dr. Rob? I had like two other main things I wanted to ask you. If you have time? Okay, awesome. Yeah. One of them, and I this is interesting too, and it's so real. Like you said, it's not just about the money. Obviously, you've made it to be very successful, and you damn well better enjoy the fruits of your labor when you've been working your butt off. And I know you do, and I hope you do. But that's not the only reason you're in it. When you have like a really high profile person, I think you mentioned it. Are we allowed to say, was it Brittney Spears you said that you turned down?
Yeah, we turned down.
When it's easy to say that and people to hear it, but being in that position when it's like, man, there's so much money they're offering, you're not just in it for the money, but then I know a part of you, because I've had some like high profile people that wanted to be on the show that I ended up turning down. And it's kind of funny. They asked to be on my show, first of all. Then they're like, here's the 5 questions you're allowed to ask her, and she'll answer. And I'm like, well, with all due respects, my show, I don't just do interviews. It's a conversation. And I'm like, those 5 questions, like people could go to any other show she's been on and see that. So if she's not, and I'm like, that would be great, but this doesn't work for our format. And then the publicist wrote back like, how dare you? No one's ever turned her down for any show or whatever. I'm like, but a part of me, and we were like younger off and starting, was thinking, oh man, if I turn this down, is this going to like burn all these bridges? And that was the fear talking to me. And then I just had to step back and think like, no, this is where I really have to draw that line in the sand and be like, what am I really in this for? And I turned them down, thank God, because it would have been a terrible show. And they got mad. They threw a fit, but onward and upward. And we've just continued to move like into our zone of genius from that. But when you're going into it and you have some really high level, like Brittney Spears, how, like you wouldn't be human if you weren't saying you didn't struggle with some type of like doubt or fear or something like that in your mind. And like, how
Yeah.
do you decipher like what totally makes or breaks a decision like that?
Well, she turned up 2 hours late and she was drunk. So I've just put that out there straight away. It's a hard decision, by the way, guys. I hate turning people down, but we do it all the time. 40% of people that come to us, we turn down all the time.
Mm.
Now, it's interesting noting that at the time, I think she was my second client that I got. I was on about $2,600 a month is what I was earning right then. At the time, now I'd earn a little bit more, but nothing like now. So it
Right.
would have been very attractive. And a dad, Jamie, when I said no, I can't do it, a dad, Jamie, stood up, Campese's restaurant, gave me a check, and said, "There's $1 million right there." Now, do I sell myself out
Mm.
and work with her, knowing quite well she's not ready and she's going to, mess up, and it's all going to come back to me because I will devastate myself if she does anything stupid, or do I do the right thing? It's like me and God had a promise years ago on the street, and He said, "Don't worry about the money; it's always there. Follow what you're supposed to be doing on this earth." And we don't bullshit anybody. We don't tell anybody lies. We turn people down all the time because you're not ready. We're not a treatment center. We're not going to capitalize on Johnny coming in for the fourth time, giving me 30 grand. It's not going to happen. And the mentality behind that is very, very important to us, because we don't play that celebrity thing. We don't play that, CEO of a banker that offered this to take his son. We don't play that, because if it did, God will strike me down dead. I have a gift from Him. I have a message and a journey from Him. How dare I take that kind of money? And it's always been my deal. Like, it's just, I don't want to. So many people fleeced me when I came over here to start my own business. I don't do that. I'm very high at being. This is me. This is me. You don't see any nothing. I don't see any smoke screens here. This is me. In actual fact, before we finish the show, I want to give my phone number out for people that are still really, really struggling. This is me. I will always have one foot in the trenches on the street, hands in the air, reaching for the sky, and another leg making sure that I can step out if any trouble happens while I'm trying to pull them out and then step back in again. That's just what we do. And yeah, not for a second did I think, wow. Imagine what sort of journey that would have been, and the contacts I would have got from that would have been amazing. But when she failed, what sort of name am I left with?
Right.
I've only got the name and my word. Oh, he went to see Dr. Robert, it didn't work. No, none of my guys can say that unless you walked out. There's been a few of those. But yeah, that's where I put myself.
But people can be looking for that short-term success. Like you said, when it comes fast, it goes fast.
Yeah.
And that's a smart thing to listen to right there. Is it goes back to really knowing what your worth is. You can turn down this because your worth and your purpose is greater than that.
Yeah.
And more will come, as a result of that. But it doesn't mean that it's always easy in the moment.
Yeah.
To make those, especially when you're like starting out where you were too. It would be different if you were super established. And
yeah.
do you really do I read this, or I heard this on another one, where it says you pretty much have like 100% money back guarantee if they qualify for your program and do everything that you take them through to do, even if
if you go through our program, it's a 90-day daily program, 1 hour a day telehealth, and then we step down for another 3 months. If you continue to do really good at that, which you will if you don't tell us lies, and then you leave us and continue the work we've taught you to do, and you relapse, I will give you all your money back. 100%. Money back guarantee, 97% success rate. We're very big on that, and we've never had to refund yet, because those guys that have relapsed or gone back using again fell off the program and didn't continue the program. So our program works, and we follow up. One of the reasons we can track that 97% is every 3 to 4 months that all them people get calls. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then once a month, you get like 10, 15, 20 minutes with me free of charge, which people do for the first month and then kind of back off. But we trace going back since I've been in this country 15, 16 years. We still trace the first patient and saying, hey, how are you doing? What's life like? 2-minute phone call. And they love it, but we don't do it for that. We do it to back our records up.
Wow. That's amazing. And what, with going also into the neuroscience, I wanted to ask you, And I've heard you talk on this too about, I think you have like usually like 3 or 4 pretty good tips to shift your mindset. And it can be from anything. A lot of people listening to the show, it's all different types of athletes, business owners, leaders, and you can get stuck in overthinking, stuck in your head with anxiety, or stuck in that leadership of imposter syndrome or procrastination where you're just, it's like it's buffering and you're overthinking and you almost like want to curl into a ball. And then the news post COVID, the whole world's doom and gloom, it's over. What are some actual things that you have people do to shift their mindset in
All
any
right,
of
guys.
those situations?
I'll give you 3 things tomorrow morning to do. Please do it. And if it's not doesn't work, let me know. I'll send you a bit of money for wasting your time. So sometimes the mind wants to do bad things to us. Always listen to the gut. The gut feeling is so real, man. I'm telling you, we've lost it. Somatic experience is amazing, but we've lost how to get in contact with our body. But listen, human beings only breathe 25% of our lung capacity. One of the reasons we feel so good at the gym is this, in between the sets. So if we're only breathing 25, 30%, 40% while we're training, 50% while we're running of oxygen, what happens? Well, one of the reasons nobody ever woke up laughing is lack of oxygen. So on a normal circadian rhythm, like I said before, between 2 and 5 is where our repair starts. So nobody wakes up laughing. Get 20 deep breaths of oxygen. In, out, like really exaggerated breaths first thing in the morning. Let's start blasting the brain and every cell in our body with oxygen. Now we're at 100% oxygen. Now our mind's alert, we're ready to go. Walk into the bathroom. If you brush your teeth with your right hands, put one week with your left, 1 week with your right. Do that for a month and you'll see a difference. And the last one is let's store that subconscious brain. One of the reasons why people have not got a lot of confidence is the first thing they do in the morning is the shaving or the putting the makeup on. When you're next to the mirror like this, you see all your blemishes. That's how we go out to the world that day. When's the last time you went to the office? Hey, buddy, how you doing? Great to... We don't do that. So people usually see us. So if you step 6 feet away back from the mirror, all your blemishes will go. And say, I love you 10 times. No other affirmations. I love you, I love you, I love you. Then get on with your day. Watch your internal dialogue all day long. Stop saying when I, or if I, or because start saying this is going to happen. Start feeling it. Start acting like it. If you want to be the best mechanic in the world, start acting like you're the best mechanic in the world, and everything else will fall into place. Visualize it. Attach the feeling to that visualization. Quantum physics backs us up here, Mark. Let's say I play basketball, but on a basketball court, there's 12 places. I can visualize me 12 places on a basketball court. I can do that easy in my mind right now. Where would I want to be if I chose one space? I want to be in the goal. I get the ball, I put it in the net, I'm the hero of the game. Everything's amazing. How do I get there? You walk over and you take that position. You don't crawl for it. You don't beg for it. You've already visualized yourself putting them there. Walk over and take the freaking position. And anybody else that gives you an excuse not to, get rid out of your life. They don't belong in your life. You are on a mission. You haven't got time for these naysayers. You're on a mission. And you better hurry up and get to there and get it, because people are dying on a daily basis. And I don't mean drugs and alcohol. I mean in general, depression, suicide. It's waiting for you to get your stuff together. And that's all it is. Don't ever think it's not you. It's you. I don't care where you are. It's you. And if you're at home right now, guys, and you're in that horrible place that me and Mark spoke about, when you're sat in that bedroom on your own, everybody else has left you. You've got nothing left. You're never going to be blonde enough, tall enough, rich enough, or thin enough. That mindset we get in that this is it. 214-600-0210 is my personal cell phone number. You text that number. I will text back immediately, and I'm going to arrange a 15-minute talk that will change your life. And if it doesn't, for whatever reason, I'm going to send you $100 for wasting your time, because I would rather give you 10 minutes of my time than hear you die of a suicide next week.
That's amazing. You just gave out your personal cell phone, and there's people that won't even give their, God's always orchestrating. It's just the way things connect, and the like-minded people, when you get around it and level up more, and connecting with Adam, how highly he's, because we're honored. We get hundreds of people writing in to be in the show each week, which I'm so grateful and thankful for, but we don't even have time to see a lot of them. But the moment you trust and respect Adam's like, you got to meet my great guy, Dr. Rob Kelly. I'm like, Adam, dude, if you say he's great, absolutely 100%, without a doubt. I know it's going to be, because it's coming from someone else that is coming out of love, and not trying to sell. So he just is, his purpose is similar to all of ours. And there's something so special about when you can keep getting into that unity, and people will ask, well, I'm not Dr. Rob. I don't have connections to Brittney Spears and stuff. And it's like, no, you're not under, he started off, you were homeless, like fighting for food, like fighting in the streets. It's not like the next day Brittney Spears came as like a client or something. It's like, do what you can with what you have. And then when people are like, well, I don't personally know them, I'm like, well, you can watch these podcasts or listen to them for free. You can access friends that don't have to be, it's the information you listen to that's out there that you can take in. There's so much nowadays that, there's negative stuff in the news, but there's so much positive stuff out there that people can tap into.
Yeah, definitely. Got to start listening to that. My best patient of all was a girl we picked up from a trailer park. The hospital had sent her home to die, and we got her well. So yeah, you're right. It's not a Britney Spears. It's not about that. It's about building a business, building a brand, building yourself. Know what you are worth and know what you're capable of doing. If I get something in here with gambling, I don't know nothing about gambling. I will get one of my friends to refer, make sure he gets the right help, but know what you're capable of doing. Then you're never letting anybody down. I mean, when I say something, because I never used to do anything. I'll do this tomorrow. I promise. Never got done. What I say today has to happen. And if I can't do it today or tomorrow, I will tell you, because I write 5 things down every day that I have to do. When you do this at home, do it easy, breakfast, lunch, whatever it is. But if you do 100 things, but you've completed this 5, the brain goes, oh yeah, well, that's a winner. That was awesome. That's awesome. Rather than running around doing 100 things, but not really completing anything, right. Get the 5 things down every day, the night before, on the morning, that you are going to complete. And if you only complete 4, guys, that day's been a waste of time. Waste of time. You've got to do the 5. Start training the mind to teach the brain how to start the morning.
I like how you also mentioned doing it the night before, because people talk about morning routine, and the night routine is just as important, because it sets you up for the next day. And I didn't get it. And I know you didn't just do this for your book, and we'll have all the links to all your stuff, but I do want to mention your book, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking, which, just that title alone hits hard. And now knowing that you've started to rekindle, well, with your one daughter, of course, of 30 years, and then now the other one is
well,
beautiful.
What she said to me, Mark, when they took him off me, the authorities took him off me because I was 2 days on alcohol and drugs with them, and they weren't changed or fed for 2 days. But that's the last thing she said. She said, Daddy, please don't go. She's only 3 years old. And then down the path, she said, Daddy, please get better. And she got to the gate. Mum opened the gate, and she's holding Mummy's arms like this. She said, Daddy, please stop drinking. And it's funny that the day I finished that book is the day Charlie, my oldest daughter, emailed me.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's all a connection, guys. It really is. See the patterns in your life. Just watch the patterns in your life. There's huge, massive, big patterns. Once you start noticing them, you'll see the miracles every single day and the opportunities every single day that you've never been able to see before. It happens to everybody. Get yourself free, be a nice guy, love people, be dependable, and stick up for what you think is right, and always protect family.
Dr. Rob, my good man, this has been an honor, bro. Like I just appreciate everything about you, your authenticity. And we'll be connecting. I think we're all going to be at a speaking event coming up in Texas, so it'll be cool to meet in person in the future too. But no matter what, I love what you're doing. I'm excited to put this out there and help a lot of people. So it's been an honor, my man. Is there any last words you wanted to say?
Just believe, guys. First of all, believe you can do it because you can. Stop saying it's impossible and put an apostrophe in there and say I'm possible. And thank you, Mark, first of all, for having me on and settling, man, all the people you help, because it's sometimes a lonely journey what we do. You know, so I wanna actually just mention that to you, that you do an amazing job. When they said I was on your show, I'm like, oh my goodness. And of course, Adam said you're on this guy's show. It's amazing. You know, it's fantastic. So I'm honored and humbled to be on your show today. What a great conversation. And I got to say, man, of all the people I've been interviewed with, you're the best, man. You really are. It's a great conversation. Load.
Thank you, man. And I got to throw I can't see your shoes right now, but I can see your glasses and I have to compliment them. I love those glasses. Those are awesome. That's like the coolest green with a black around it that I've ever seen.
Oh. People say, have you drawn them on cardboard or is it an image? I said, no, they're real glasses. Yeah, they're all crazy.
And did you say you're 60? How 60 what?
I'm 62. I'll be 63 this year.
Oh
and
gosh,
I've just lost
great.
150 pounds over the last 18 months.
How
I got
much?
to 152 pounds I've lost in the last, because I just let myself go. And, you know, I'm telling you, don't say you can't do this, because you can. You know, I feel better. I am better. I look amazing. I'm back in the gym. It's all for my health, not for anything else. But yeah, man, I mean, nothing is impossible. Nothing.
Oh my gosh, we'll have to do a whole other show just on that. I love it. At age 60, where everyone's like, oh, no, whatever, you can't lose. You've lost 150 pounds. It's never too late to start not giving up. Whoa, look at that.
Oh, baby, check that out.
Man, that's amazing.
Thank you,
Holy
man.
crap. Your next book's going to have to be on that.
Yes.
That's incredible, for real.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, everyone. Dr. Rob Kelly. We'll have everything in the show notes. He gave out his personal cell, and I promise a lot of you listening are like, yeah, but if he's not going to want to hear from me. If you're really in that dark spot, this dude is the real deal. Please, if you're really in that dark spot, shoot him a text. Please, please, please do that, because we've both been there. Shoot him a text. Don't let the voices stop you from doing that. And remember, everyone, like Dr. Rob says, I'm possible. All things are possible. So never settle, never give up, and keep elevating beyond.